cloud. We have that done. Okay, so I wait for 1 year and I launched that course. That course is launched. Students enroll in that course, but again, there is no institutional support. In terms that, one of my senior colleagues tells me that this is not going to show up in your total load. So we have our workload in terms of the teaching hours we teach in the entire year. For several years, I was teaching at Islamic finance, and they would get, and somebody you would sympathize with me, was Ishan's load exceeds normal teaching load. Other professor teaching this much, he's teaching that much. Some of those people would say, well, this is self-inflicted. He wants to pursue his passion in Islamic finance, and that's why he's teaching that those additional courses in undergrad and MBA. The same places where we had no institutional support for offering Islamic finance courses just 10 years ago, just 13 years ago, now we have full-fledged centers. And the first degree program is coming up in a quarter's time. We are hosting conferences like this. This is a major leap. This is a major stride by any means. This is a very short time period that has expired since then, since I'm talking about. Just 5 to 6 years ago, again, if you look at what happened in Pakistan, the fatwa declaring all kinds of Islamic finance, all kinds of Islamic banking as haram, shook it was a major earthquake in this industry and pulled the rug under the rug of credibility and authenticity from under this industry. 5, 6 years later, we are still surviving, we are flourishing. So given all of this, this is a great moment of celebration. This has been, if you look at on the academic side, on the side of philosophical and scholarly ideas, this has been a major achievement as well. If you look at the modernist narrative, where only, I'm talking about the modernist narrative, I'm talking about enlightened humanism. The only entities who can claim what is right, what is wrong, is reason or science. There's no place of religion in that narrative. Religion does not hold this. Religion is pure demagogy. There is biases, there is false belief. It's just like witchcraft. Religion has no scientific, no rational basis. In that narrative, if we can create an industry like that, if we can force places like Stanford, Cambridge, Harvard to offer courses in Islamic finance, and their authors to engage in conversations in Islamic finance, that's a big achievement. Again, because many a times in Islamic finance, the reason that we come up with is not based on logic. The justifications that we come up with is not based on reason. It's based on nas of Quran, nas of hadith, which is totally understandable to somebody who does not believe in those things. Right? So, for example, an accountant would say, "Well, I don't see the economic, the substance here. It's just a difference of form." Well, then you have to learn from these people. There's something they call substance, which is when something has been declared, no matter how similar it looks to you, to the Prophet, to the Shari, to the person who announced the Sharia, who came with Sharia, all those believers follow him. There's a substance. There is a difference of illat. There's a difference of hukum. No matter how economists view it, a similar fashion. They say that it's exactly the same. But for the person who brought it in Sharia, the example of Islam declares forward sale prohibited. At the same time, Islam declares salam as perfectly permissible. Salam is a combination of, for those people who know financial thing, who know salam, they know that salam is a combination of forward transaction plus a loan. And the parties build considerations. They build time value of money as well, and they build, when they're doing salam, they also look at the future market. They will do that, right? Yet, salam is established with a different epistemic basis. The epistemology of science, modernism, is different. The epistemology of Islam is different. How do we know it's halal? Because there are Sahih hadiths, not one, many of them, so that the scholars have to accept it. Right? So this is a different kind of substance that we are looking at. So this is something that, again, we look into. So this is something that new entrants and people who are taking initiative in Islamic finance and learning for the first time need to be cognizant of. One last thing that I'll finish my note on. We can celebrate all our successes so far, but moving forward, there are two big challenges that are lurking deep dive inside the future of Islamic finance. And those challenges are again from our common enemy, extremism. Extremism, just as we view it as the biggest threat to the social fabric, to the society itself, we see extremism as a big threat to Islamic finance. What kind of extremism am I talking about? Here there are two types of extremism that I am focusing on. And let me put it in the words of Imam Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah. Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, the great scholar, he used to say that the job of a scholar, of an alim, and note it down, the words, the crisp words he's using, is to earn credible, quote unquote, credible, quote unquote, concessions for the ummah, for the people. Concessions, but credible ones. And second statement says that as far as declaring everything haram is concerned, everything prohibited is concerned, any ignorant person can do that. Any jahil can do that. So he's talking about two extremes. One is giving concessions. Kullu halal. That's one extreme. Excessive permissibility. To the point that you're even choking, violating the very fundamental tenets. That's one extreme. The other extreme is kullu haram. That is highlighted in the second part of the statement. No. Everything, that has the word finance in it, has the word bank in it, cannot be Islamic. It has to be halal. No deeper research. The research is limited to having the word finance or bank. That's enough to declare halal. Kullu halal. So from these two extremes, nothing can survive. So these two extremes again are threats for Islamic finance in future as well. I am becoming less concerned about the extreme that says kullu haram because they are not going to survive. Such people, because their impact is basically proving to the society that Islam is a religion that belonged to 1400 years ago. It has no relevance for the modern times. It cannot present solutions to the modern time. But my concerns are becoming a bit more grave over the kullu halal side. The problem with kullu halal side is that not only you make this non-maqbool in the greater schemes of things, but you also, chances are that if you cannot, even if you are making all the efforts to make the distinction, and the products are right and legitimate and credible and authentic, even then, if in the perception of society you haven't been able to communicate that, again, this is a big threat. Because the people, they say there's no difference. You can't see the difference. So here our job, and I'll take my responsibility before anyone else as an academic, as somebody who's been associated with Islamic finance for so long, and the Islamic bankers, and the Sharia scholars, every one of us, we need to fight these two extremes and come up with a solution which is the best of these extremes. We stay in the middle and we come to solutions which are, again, in the words of Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, which are implementable, which are practical on one hand, but on the other hand, they are credible, they have all the authenticity and the support from Allah. Jazakallah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zishan. I would now request the volunteers, please be ready with the mantras. I would request Dr. Ishar to please, Dr. Ishar here. I would request Dr. Ishar to please come on stage to hand over the mantras. Mr. Zulfan Tijazi, I would request to please collect the mantle from Dr. Ishar. Please put your hands together for Mr. Tijazi. Professor Dato Sayyid Usman Al-Habshi. Dr. Zishan. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank all the respected speakers for sharing such thoughts with the audience. Straight away, we will now be moving forward to the next session as the focus session is over. Straight away, we'll be moving forward to the next session that is about infrastructure development for stimulating growth. I would request Dr. Zishan to please be on stage because he is also a participant of this session as well. Um, Mr. Ijlal Alvi, Chief Executive Officer, International Institute of Financial Markets. I would request Mr. Ijlal to please come on stage. Mr. Ashar Nazim, Partner, Global Islamic Banking Center, Ernst & Young. Mr. Hassan Bilgirami, President and CEO, Bank Islami. Mr. Mohammad Shoaib, CEO, Al Meezan Investment Management Limited. Dr. Zishan, I would request you please come on stage. The key topics on which the participants will be discussing are standardization and harmonization, taxation, transparency, and accounting disclosures, incentives for Islamic capital market development, and finally, the buzzword CPAC. Is CPAC making any paradigm shift? Finally, I would request the session chair, Mr. Noor Abid, to please come on stage. Mr. Noor Abid is a DOT member, is a member of Board of Directors for Finance House Group. He is a member of Board of Directors of a number of Islamic institutions worldwide. Mr. Noor Abid. So, we would be inviting over the participants to come on stage for the definitive talk. Or we can sit here. So I would request Mr. Noor Abid to please moderate the discussion, and we can start work as
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's my privilege to have been asked to facilitate this session. The topics that Zishan Imam mentioned are very interesting, and you have Green the Green of the industry sitting with me on my left and right. The way this session would work is that I would ask each of the panelists to speak on one of the specific topics. But we would allocate time at the end for you to ask questions. I'm sure you have lots of questions to ask from these industry experts who are sitting with me. So please have those questions ready, and we'll give you the opportunities. I just want to set the tone for the industry. The entire Islamic financial assets globally, at least in the major core markets, are estimated to be around 3 trillion. Now that appears to be really very large number. But if you compare it with the what UN launched, Principles of Responsible Investing, that in the last few years has grown to 45 trillion. And if you compare it with the global traditional Islamic finance, their assets are in excess of 300 trillion. So what does that mean? 300 trillion versus 3 trillion. We are 1%, and we will add it for a very long time. So to me, the opportunity for Islamic finance to expand globally, particularly in its core market. Really, if you look into the data, you can go to either Ernst & Young, Thomson Reuters, even IIF websites, and you will see the data. And the percentage of Islamic banking in all of the core Islamic countries, I hate using this word, but really it's pathetic. It's very, very small. So there is an opportunity, and you must have heard yesterday the ambition of the Pakistan government to take the Islamic banking in Pakistan to 120%. That can happen and should happen. But all of us need to play our role in it. What also disturbs me quite often is that year by year, I see the Islamic assets, particularly of the Middle Eastern banks, not Pakistani banks, but the Middle East banks, in excess of 500 billion every year, flowing to London, Frankfurt, Paris financial markets. They are given to traditional banking. That's really not what Islamic banking should be about. So that's another opportunity, and I would urge my panelists to really speak about that too. At the end of 2015, the combined profits of the Islamic banking banks, Islamic finance, and core markets were in excess of $20 billion. These are estimated to grow by 2021 to 8 billion. So again, a huge opportunity, massive opportunity. And I'm sure there are lots of people sitting here who would want to make a big difference. Particularly uniformity and consistency of accounting and auditing standards, IOFI, which I represent, I sit on the board, has done a great job, but needs to do a lot more. And I would like to share with you that IOFI Secretary General and a couple of members of the board met and had a meeting with ISB in London. We met the ISB chairman and Simon Upton. Simon Upton heads the group ISB has formed to look at the Islamic accounting standards issued by IOFI, compare them with IFRS, and identify what are the gaps. IOFI has been set up not to reinvent the wheel. IFRS has done a comprehensive job. ISB has done a comprehensive job of issuing IFRS in as many fields as they have. The role of IOFI and role of IRFM and the role of IFSB in Malaysia and all the Islamic infrastructure organizations has made to fill the gap. Islamic finance is different. You heard the good professor explain to you what really riba is and what Islamic finance is all about. So it's different. Therefore, it needs standards for specific interpretation and specific requirements of Sharia. So for that reason, consistency, uniformity of Islamic standards across the Islamic banking, Islamic finance is really critical. So AOFI is trying to build bridges and have linked up with IIS. The secretary that the person have gone, I was going to ask him, request him, that now that he's achieved 2% reduction for Islamic companies, he should really look at Islamic investment companies and Islamic investors because they suffer from the same disadvantage that rest of the industry does. I will now invite my panelists, starting with you, to talk about development of Islamic banks in Pakistan.
Shukriya, Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. I was hoping that I would be the last, but as it turned out, I'm the first. So briefly, I have organized my presentation under three heads that when we talk about the development of Islamic finance, Islamic banking in Pakistan, there are the areas we should be focusing on. The first area, and I think the first challenge was the acceptance level, and I'll elaborate on it. Then the next level was the strategy level on which the things changed over the years, and the third thing, the third area which I would like to concentrate are the factors which we should be considering if we want to really develop Islamic banking and finance. So now coming back to the macro level, I think the first breakthrough was achieved when there was realization within the regulators that Islamic finance is not something to be resisted. Actually, it has to be accepted to achieve the financial inclusion goal. And this realization came during the period of, after the judgment of Supreme Court, when President Musharraf was in power, and Dr. Ishrat and Ministry of Finance, especially the State Bank of Pakistan, worked very hard to come up and develop a set of regulatory framework which would lay the foundation of Islamic banking in Pakistan. So, I mean, the approach changed diagonally because just before this judgment, the approach of the government of Pakistan was that they were resisting Islamic banking in all shapes and forms, and so much so that government of Pakistan had actually gone to the Supreme Court to say that the Islamic banking, there is no such thing as Islamic banking, and the PLS system is actually in line with Islamic banking. So, I mean, the dichotomy that we see here is this, that there was a government which was perceived to be secular, was more receptive to Islamic finance than a government to be on. Then, after the regulatory framework was done and it was put in place, second level of acceptance had to be achieved within the circle of ulama. Because on and off, we would hear that the type of banking that Islamic banks do is not strictly in conformity with the principles of Islam. But in 2008, a massive fatwa came, and I say massive because practically everybody who was somebody had signed that fatwa. And I remember when I woke up and I read about the fatwa in the junk, I was really worried, and I prepared myself mentally for a run on the land and what we can do, and what are the type of finances that we are going to fall back with the deposit bill, because if you were just 2 years old and we had about 36 branches. So by the end of the day, we had lost only 1.5 million rupees out of 9.8 billion rupees. So, I mean, then I realized that, I mean, people do listen to ulama to a level, but then when it comes to issues such as finances, they apply their mind also, and they also do their own thinking. It also collaborates because when we actually opened the bank, one of the first things we used to do was when we open a branch, we would have an open house, people would come and we serve them tea, etc. And we were prepared along with the Sharia advisor to answer questions about Islamic finance. And I noticed that gradually people stopped coming because nobody had any question. And when they came to the branch, they precisely know more, I mean, so much about Islamic finance that at least it was suffice to open an account. And on and off they would have questions, but they diminished. And I think in the last 4 or 5 years, at least I have not entered into any debate with anyone in Pakistan that is Islamic or not Islamic. Then another correction in our approach was that it was the learning process that we thought the demand for Islamic finance would be most in the rural areas, especially in the frontier province. Conversely, we found out that the demand for Islamic finance was greatest in Karachi, and that too in areas where the literacy rate was very high. And in northern Pakistan, people were actually reluctant to part with money, and they were not so, I mean, they won't mind not getting any return on their deposit, but they just didn't want to part with the money. And then the per ticket size in Karachi was so huge that it was opening a branch after a kilometer. As against opening to, I mean, going into deep rural areas, we will not have people, trained people, systems issues, etc., etc. Was that educated Pakistanis who have a religious bent of mind. And that changed the game altogether. As against concentrating on people who are very religious or who have a religious outlook, but they are confused. So an average customer, at least for Bank Islamic today, is somebody who would dress up like you and me, is religiously inclined, and he wants a service which is at par with any bank in the country, and it is Sharia. So these were the three challenges that we had to go through in the initial phase. Then came the strategy part, and as in the last 10 years, that when I look back, the strategy also swung from one extreme to the other. The first was that all of us thought that there is a huge demand and it has to be cleaned up, and people are not very particular about the deposit, the rates that we offer, which was correct, which is correct. And this is also correct that when Islamic banks came, the demand was so much that people would actually make an effort to go and open an account with an Islamic bank. I remember my family members who used to live in North Ansabad would bank with Meezan Bank in FTC. So they would travel about 23 kilometers to just to open an account, and that's it. And the side note, Mr. Irfan Siddiqui is not here, but I used to tell him that the activities of my retired father, one of the activities of my retired father is banking with Meezan Bank and getting a completion certificate from DHA. So they would, both of these would consume the entire day. He quite enjoyed it also. So, but those things have changed. So if you go to any Islamic bank today, you will get probably a better service. And Islamic banks also, I mean, those customers were not indifferent about service and rates are long gone. So you don't find any of those good customers. Then the second level was the product range. None of us, when we started, had enough products. So, I mean, one had to make an effort to get a product of your choice. But if you look today, all the Islamic banks, we have talked about the four full-fledged Islamic banks, have actually a product range which is better than their conventional counterparts. Like there was a news item the other day in the newspaper that Islamic banks dominate mortgage financing. It is correct. In fact, we check every quarter, and the three Islamic banks who are active in this business control almost 90% of the mortgage market of the country. And they are number 1, 2, 3 of them. So, likewise, in consumer, even in the recession time, the auto Ijara market was driven by the Islamic banks, but even on the trade finance, I mean, you name anything, and the Islamic banks have got the product. On product range, they're absolutely at par with conventional banks, and the strategy is no more to, I mean, to use the faith or the desire of the customer to bank with an Islamic bank as a tool to get business. Actually, it is the service and the production. Likewise, two areas that I would like to briefly touch upon are the service and the technology. The technology, 4 Islamic banks that are operational now, 3 have got, even mobile apps now that are operational, and it can be compared that of 32 Islamic banks, only 13 have got mobile apps. And if you compare the rankings of these mobile apps, the number 1 and number 2 are also Islamic banks. So, I mean, we launched a mobile app about 2 weeks back, and the rating is 4.95 out of 5. And in terms of maximum downloads, I think Meezan is the leader. So that would also tell you that Islamic banking is progressing in Pakistan not because of the faith only, it is the quality of the service and the product range also. Now, let me conclude my presentation by just touching upon briefly the challenges that Islamic banks have also. We've all heard that the desire of the government is to promote Islamic banking, and we would like to achieve a certain benchmark or a market share by end of 2020 and 2020. But the fact remains that there are huge challenges in that. And I mean, we do recognize that there's a tremendous amount of goodwill within the government, but it is not translated into any concrete steps. And if I'm permitted to say, it's more of a lip service than any action. You look at the steps that Islamic banks have taken themselves, that out of 4, 3 have got tier 2 capital. Like Meezan has recently launched tier 2 capital, Al-Baraka did about 2 years back. Then out of the 4 banks, 2 are listed, and if you look at their valuations, the price to book is actually better than the price to book of conventional banks. Despite of that, Islamic banks have not attracted capital as much as they should be. And the reason is this, that we do not have any tool, any instrument whereby we can deploy our excessive liquidity, and as a result, except from Meezan Bank, and even Meezan Bank has suffered because our return on equity is not at par with the conventional banks. And if your ROE is not at par with conventional banks, you are in the long run going to struggle to get the capital, which is going to hamper you in areas such as getting good talent, investing in technology, expansion of network, etc., etc. So as a result, an industry which has huge potential to attract capital, not only from locally, from abroad, is just suffering because the government has not been able to take any action. Nurabad sir talked about CPAC, which is all about infrastructure. So on one hand, we have a potential of $46 billion, and on the other hand, we do not have any sukuk which can finance this income. So I mean, what a dichotomy, and what a contradiction. Similarly, if you look at the deposits of Islamic banks and the sukuks the governments have issued, when this government came into power, 30%, the sukuks issued were 30% of the deposits. Today, they are less than 40%. So ROE of all the banks have suffered, and government is, I regret to say, the government has even realized about it. And this is not even confined to Islamic banks also. Islamic windows have also suffered. So, I mean, this is a huge challenge, and earning a legitimate profit should be the motive of every business, because if a business is not earning profit, its viability in the long term is questionable. In fact, it's a regulatory risk. So this I wanted to touch upon. The last thing is within this is that I mean, all said and done, the good things about two of the good things about Islamic banks is this, that last year we were an Islamic bank was chosen by a state bank, and I repeat the word chosen by a state bank to bail out a failed bank in Pakistan, which also roughly of the same size. So that also speaks the confidence of the regulator that they have. Gone are the days when National Bank was the win of everything. So this time they chose a private sector bank, which was an Islamic bank, to bail out a failed bank, and the result is this, that even for the commercial mergers which have taken to commercial reasons, they have not been able to report profit. We have reported profit, except for one quarter, consistently we have started reporting profit. That speaks of the strength of Islamic banking industry. But that strength can only be sustained if the banks have something on which they can earn return so that they can justify their existence. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saab, for a very informative presentation. I would say, however, that you're very lucky. Nobody asked you about Islamic banking anymore. I was flying last night from Kuwait, and the gentleman sitting next to me, who was coming to Karachi to spend Eid with his family, asked me, what are you going to Karachi for? So I said to attend an Islamic finance forum, and his comment was, I don't see the difference. What's the difference between Islamic banks and the other banks? So we had a long discussion, but I got nowhere. At the end, I asked him, where is your bank account? He said, KFH. That's an Islamic bank. So I said, that's my case. Thank you, Mr. Saab. I would now invite Sher Saab to please speak about incentives for capital markets.
Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to talk about a little bit about the capital markets, especially in the context of asset management. I'm going to talk more specifically about the journey of the asset management industry in Pakistan, and certainly touch upon the incentives as well. The journey of Islamic capital markets in Pakistan is not as long as the journey of the Islamic banks. And if you look at it in 2002, 2003, there were hardly any Islamic asset management company in the country. From that point in time, with the 0% market share, the market share, as the chairman SSP also shows, the market share of the Islamic asset management industry has grown to 30%. And I'm very confident that in the next 5 to 10 years, by 2025, it will be more than 50%, inshallah. Some of the challenges that have come up during this period is that there was a lot of skepticism when the first Islamic fund was launched in Pakistan. There was a lot of concern whether they will have the ability to diversify, because the Pakistani capital market is very limited. And but alhamdulillah, it has been a long journey, a fruitful journey, and over the years the growth has been tremendous. With just one asset company, which was Meezan, which was Islamic Fund in 2003. Today, alhamdulillah, all the 20 asset management companies in Pakistan, all of them are focusing on Sharia compliant funds. And I was looking at the launch of new funds in 2015-16. Out of the total number of funds launched, 90% of the funds launched were Islamic funds. Only 10% were conventional. This has been possible because of the inherent strength of the screening mechanism, inherent strength of the selection criteria, which are used for selection of investments. And what we have seen is that, alhamdulillah, in the last 5 years, the CAGR return of Islamic funds collectively in the industry has been about 30% per annum, which is unheard of, not only in the conventional market in Pakistan, but even across the world. It's a total unheard of 30% return CAGR for the last 5 years.
That basically means that an investor who invested 100 rupees has been able to reach a target of 450 to 500 rupees in past 5 years. Now, what have been the challenges? Obviously, one of the challenges, and Hassan also mentioned about it, and that has been discussed yesterday, is the availability of the investable assets. And that has been the biggest challenge which has been hindering the growth of the Islamic asset management industry. If we were able to get more assets on the fixed income and the money market side, then the growth would have been even higher compared to what has been. As far as the matter of incentive is concerned, as we had the privilege to hear the story given by Dr. Zishan, that there was no support available. It has been the same case as far as the Islamic asset industry in Pakistan is concerned. There have been no fiscal incentives. It is only because of the performance of the fund, it is because of the investment process, it is because of the use of technology that what we have seen is there has been a transformation from the conventional side to the Islamic side. MashaAllah, recently there have been some initiatives to provide incentives to, as Mulana also mentioned, 2% tax incentive is being given to the listed manufacturing companies if they are Sharia compliant. Similarly, there have been a lot of challenges on the scope side, on the taxation side, and the Honorable Finance Minister also mentioned that recently there has been an ordinance which has allowed that provided a level playing field to the issuance of scope. So hopefully we are optimistic that we will see more issuance of scopes. But one important thing which I would like to highlight and invite the attention of the audience is that what we have seen is that if we came up with 100% conventional banking, it was huge, and today the bank side of the banking industry 10 trillion. The Islamic banks have a 13% share today. At the same time, the capital markets in the country have been very, very small. The mutual fund industry has been very small. So when the Islamic funds industry was launched, it gave it an opportunity to grow very fast. And as I just mentioned, 30% market share now. Now at this point in time, the Pakistan Stock Exchange shares have been divested. The SCB and the government, and especially the finance minister, is taking keen interest in that. And we are targeting to offload 60% shares of the Pakistan Stock Exchange to institutional and private investors, both domestic and institutional. Our capital markets right now comprises only the cash-only market. We don't have any futures, we don't have any derivative products, we don't have any options. And I believe there's a roadmap actually to launch all these new products. My humble request would be to this August forum that when we are coming up with new products, it is an ideal opportunity for us to come up with the Sharia compliant structures, the products which are compliant with the Sharia. At the moment, the financing mechanism at the stock exchange all conventional. There has been a lot of work done by the product development committee and the Sharia scholars in that area also. We have reached a point where we can implement a mechanism and introduce a Sharia compliant financing product at the stock exchange. But at the same time, it is very, very important that all the new products that we are looking at for launch to expand the market and to expand the horizon of the capital markets in the country. It is very important that at this point in time, when these new products are being developed, a special attention is paid to the Sharia compliant of the structure. And we don't have to it's not a rocket science. These structures have been identified, developed, tested, and implemented in other capital markets, in the financial markets, and it is the right time to focus on that. And on this note, I will conclude my presentation.
Thank you, sir. I would now invite Ismail to talk about standardization and harmonization of Islamic finance and contribution made by IIF in that particular space, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's indeed a pleasure to be here today, and I'm honored to be invited by IDA Steve to talk about the standardization, the subject which is very close to my heart. I started working in the standard sector some 12 years back, and it's just look yesterday that I started. And we do have sort of challenges in terms of developing, bringing unification and standardization. As mentioned by the governor yesterday, the standardization is the key, and my message today would be how to go about working together and how to cooperate and how to basically build the industry where we have challenges, as Sheikh Taqi rightly mentioned, and how to sort of implement. I think the major challenge comes when you are sort of developing the standard implementation. Right, like you mentioned, Mr. Muravid about AOP, accounting standards being developed, but they are sometimes being used, especially the Sharia standards for reference. Sometimes accounting standards are for reference; they are not really being made regulatory sort of requirements. And I think that's one of the key sort of aspects is the regulator's role as well as the industry role. We have in the Islamic industry sort of three main standard setting organizations. One is AOP, which is very well known here, I'm sure, and there's Sharia standards are applied across the globe, and we are really grateful to Sheikh Taqi and all the scholars who have been working in this regard. Then there is, of course, AOP, accounting, auditing standards, which are being sort of, I understand, since I'm also based in Bahrain, been reviewed and revised and being reworked by the conventional, because we have to work together. There are sort of level of integration which we have to achieve. So although we have our own sort of distinguished nature of the industry, so we cannot really treat the similar things in the same manner. And I will mention about a few of the products which the reason for my standing today is that I can talk longer. So, which I don't think is the case. It would be allowed, but that's why I'm standing today, and there are not more than one people who are listening to me. And also, when you look at the standardization, you look at the neutrality, you look at the middle ground, which Dr. Zishan rightly mentioned. These are the things which you have to really look into it. We also have in Malaysia, of course, the IFSB, which looks at the regulatory aspects. And then in the last 6-7 years, IFMB started looking at developing documentation and product standards. And these standards are combining the efforts of AOP and IFSB. And we made it very clear now in recent years that we don't duplicate our efforts. And we are controlled by central banks sometimes as our founding members. We have a number of sort of central banks who are founders, like IDB. So these things have been looked at. And I'm quite happy to see that we are trying to work together and try to work in our own areas to develop the industry. One of the aspects when you are looking at standardization of documentation and products that we have to look at all the angles. AOP, we have a standard, Sharia standard, let's say on Wakala, how the working of restricted Wakala would work, how the unrestricted Wakala would work. May have accounting treatment for that. But how to apply that in a marketplace, how the banks can use it, or the industry can use it, that's the biggest challenge when we develop a standard. So it has to be practical enough. It has to be widely acceptable by the Sharia. So we have to see that these aspects are covered when we're developing. And also we have to see the legal aspects, because the commercial law side is very important to look at it when you're doing any standard to develop, especially the documentation standard. Thirdly, you have to look at a standard at the national level. You may have your own, I'm sure. As Mr. Hassan rightly mentioned, you have retail products. We have not done on the retail product yet, but on the corporate side, trade finance and capital market, we have been working on. And these are sort of, you look at the legal requirements, and you look at the regulatory requirements, which are very important when you are sort of developing how the legal basis these standards will work. And the input of the industry is extremely critical. That's why I always say that when you're doing standards, you may have your national level, but then you have to look at cross-border, how internationally things are done. You may have certain good things being practiced here, I'm sure in Pakistan, I have seen, but how to take those abroad also is very important. and how to see these standards can be applied here also, can be used. I think this is one of the key messages I would like to pass on, that we need to sort of work together. Because the standard setting organization has created as a development institution, we don't have any other role other than develop the industry. We are created as a non-profit. So the challenge is to work really in those sort of areas. Now I would like to cover some of the technical aspects. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time. The three areas which I would like to sort of briefly touch upon is, one is the sukuk. It's a big challenge. There is a sukuk report on our website, and I have a few copies which we publish, and that's the only thing which we do on the research side. We do all the documentation and the standards. And if you sort of look at that report, there are three, four sort of things which I would like to highlight. One is that sukuk market internationally, if you look at it, at the financial crisis time, it came down like any other sort of bond market. Although there are major differences, we should not call it a bond. There's always an underlying assets requirement which are there. And I understand there's a challenge sometimes to find the right assets. And that's why, if you see, we have mostly on the domestic level, we have seen for interbank market the Muraba use. I think that's some of the challenges based on Muraba. And most of the countries, Muraba sukuks are not tradable widely Sharia, whilst they can be traded at par. So there is no sort of trading on discount or premium in case of Muraba. And I think we have over sort of reliance in certain areas if you look at globally, especially for the interbank market. I think it's a challenge in the use of Muraba structure. We have also seen recently in the international market, when I call international sukuks, these are mostly dollar sukuks, there are currencies like Malaysian ringgit, for example, or Sing dollar, or euros, which are more sort of readily tradable. You'll see use now shifting if you compare it at the financial crisis time. Of course, the market came down, and then there were some sort of issues with the restructuring and default, and Dr. Salman, I think, from Italy today will talk about those. That what happened and how the confidence came back when they were able to restructure the sukuk. The market picked up. And we have seen 2012 onwards around $100+ billion sukuk being issued internationally, both domestic and international. And last year, because of the change in the short-term market in banking in Malaysia, there was a drop, but that was the short-term market. Your longer-term market still, I think, is fairly reasonably okay. It's not really, that big. It's around 25-30 billion dollars per year of sukuk issuances. But one change which we have noticed, and you'll see that our website, I encourage you to go and check, is the shift. Ijara still is there. I think role is around 20% Ijara structures internationally, but we have shifted towards the Wakala structure. Wakala gives you flexibility. Of course, underlying assets are there. But one challenge I see is there the use of Murabaha and the Wakala. I think that we have to be mindful. That level of Muraba, maybe sometime it necessitates that we have certain level of Muraba to bring the industry. We fully understand that we have challenges and we have to move on and overcome these challenges. So these are the two sort of areas which in the sukuk market we have seen structure-wise that these are the sort of the challenges and availability of sort of assets. I think we have to really come around, and in my view, we have to have underlying assets in Islamic finance. Now, my next point I would like to move is to the Wakala. We have seen that there is in the interbank market, it's good to note that retail market they have products to offer. But we look at the interbank market internationally. We have seen over reliance on the Muraba. It's credit intensive when you do Muraba. B, it is more of a debt type instrument. So you sort of do it from the central bank perspective, it fits very well from the bank's perspective. And easier sometimes, but Malaysia may have the commodities to support. But one sort of aspect comes that maybe their murabas with much more than the available commodities. I think this is one sort of area. And we have seen now sort of, at least from Bahrain perspective, I can say, but 2-3 years ago, we developed a standard on unrestricted wakala. There are two types of wakala, as you would know. One is restricted. Restricted wakala is off-balance sheet, generally used by asset management, or it will be mostly dictated by the market who is investing where to invest. And generally, we have seen being invested in Muraba again, so we should avoid that. And that's why I think we produced the unrestricted wakala standard for the interbank market. And it's been, alhamdulillah, quite widely used now. And you should see, and Central Bank of Bahrain also developed a standard or a product for the Islamic banks for the liquidity management need for the unrestricted wakala. The advantage is, and then you see AOFI ruling on the restricted wakala is off balance sheet. But if you see unrestricted and it's restricted stake, sometime maybe I'll do some workshop on this as well. You'll see where it will fall. Of course, from IFRS and AOFI standards, it will fall into on-balance sheet treatment. And that basis, Central Bank of Bahrain has done a product for Islamic banks to provide them with playing field. And recently, just a few days ago, some bank told me that in Bahrain, the central bank is saying that you move towards unrestricted wakala, move away from Muraba as much as possible. And one of the aspects of unrestricted wakala, when we do, of course, you cannot guarantee the profit, as you know, you can't guarantee the principal. And this product, by the way, came from the UK banks when they were formed. And that time, I have to say, treat that as a deposit. That's the treatment. And we looked at it sort of, can it be a deposit? Of course, from the Sharia perspective, it cannot be a deposit. It can never be. But we developed certain sort of, I would say, aspects of it, which makes it sort of roll of a key, much more sort of than just you say that I was not negligent, but I lost it. So that's not the case. And one of the things which is there is the guidance memorandum. In our respective scholars, one thing we wanted to bring maybe later on from the legal perspective is to look at is the role of wakil. In 2009, there was a fifth majma in Kuwait when they made a ruling on unrestricted wakil. That this is not 1,000 years ago, role of wakil was just a agent. Now it's a financial matter. So perhaps the role should be much more than just negligent. And they said that we sort of recommend that the wakil is responsible for sort of anything which wakil should provide the evidence that it was sort of not because of negligence. There's some other matter which are there. So legally, wakil is responsible for that. Previously, that was not the case. So this is, I think, the ruling. Legally, if you look at it, it provides more comfort to the wakil. So these are some of the aspects which are there and restricted wakala. Then my final point I'd like to come is on the hedging. And that one is the challenge which I have took at the time of financial crisis. And when we took it to our senior scholars, that we are developing a hedging master agreement with international swaps and derivatives variation like IFS, we are sort of sometimes work with the entities for the legal sort of strength point of view. We explained that these are sort of things which we are doing for the purpose of hedging of the house, not for purpose of creating speculative transactions. It took us a number of years to explain, and we finally came out with the master agreement, which provides the institutions who are sort of in the need of hedge their risk in terms of currency risk, and especially to have a master which can cater if these transactions, if there is something happen legally, I hope doesn't happen, but that event of default is one of the severe events which can happen. Another event, what would be the case? Like we heard earlier, you cannot use the mechanism when the one party defaults, but it cannot really continue with the transaction, let's say foreign exchange transaction for 4 or 5 years. Risk, then what would be the case? How to sort of come out with the value transaction? You cannot do net present value or discounted cash flows. And sort of come out with one of the key things in the document is how to come out with sort of the area which is to provide you mechanism with netting purposes, the value which is there when it happens. And that mechanism, what we develop, I think is one of the best one available to provide. So it doesn't really look into the cash flow, discounted cash flow or net present value. You can just exchange cash flow if you're losing currency side or if you're gaining and that gain belongs to the defaulted party. So these are the aspects on the master agreement. We moved on when we sort of develop any standard. We of course do a lot of consultation with the industry. I know I'm running out of time. I will just quickly mention in terms of the products, because I was mentioning that we do sort of consultation. And our initial products, we didn't really have gone into options yet, which was mentioned. That's something which we have to do consultation. But there are sort of standards we have developed, and I understand in Pakistan also, you have on the FX forward side, which is being approved by Sheikh, and we have two standards on FX forward, which can be done for the cross currency that is being done, and then it's for the rate of return. Of course, we have the issue of using the reference rate. That's a different subject altogether. So these are sort of things which are being sort of developed internationally, and we are always sort of looking into market like Pakistan, and at the standard setting we like to sort of contribute to the manner possible, and we also welcome the participation from the industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's encouraging that you introducing standardized documentation on forward contracts. I remember about 12 years ago there was an Islamic banking conference in Bahrain, and I mentioned the forward contract in Islamic banking context, and Jeddah, there was a scholar from Jeddah who almost called me a kafir for mentioning a forward contract, and it's not becoming reality. So it's a great way to progress. I think it's timely that I invite Dr. Zishan to talk about standardization and harmonization of Sharia standards and what role can Sharia scholars play in product development. You heard the demand from everybody that there are enough Sharia compliant products. So please.
Again, in addition to answer your question, I would remain at approach of generalizing the philosophical that I think Zal have covered in great details about the actual challenges, giving exact specific examples of where are we in standardization. Let me just briefly talk about need for standardization, and then limits to standardization. And from the Sharia perspective, what are some of the efforts that are being made to equip Sharia scholars to a level where they would, at least they would from their rich background in Sharia and fiqh, they would be able to actually see things from the perspective of Shuaib and Hassan Saab, all those people representing. So first of all, the need for Sharia standards. I've seen in the times, standardization does not mean, lack of standardization does not mean that we don't have rules to play by. We have rules, but those rules are not standardized. So each bank, and I'm talking about those old days, when each bank would have their own unique Sharia board, and Sharia board would have all the discretion, all the powers to give fatwa, to give verdicts on whether something is permissible or not. What used to happen in those days was there used to be a great variety in the opinions of or the fatwas of the scholars. So much so that a person who's looking at them, he would have some doubts about the very credibility of those Sharia opinions. and sometimes what would happen is the party which will have a greater power would dominate and would have its way. So some of the bigger banks would say that, how can that big bank or that bank can go away with such a thing. It's more like, if you played cricket in streets, that, there are two parties playing and one party has a bigger bully in it. So when they are batting, LPW is not out. When the bigger party is batting, LPW is out, right? So those things need to be fixed. So a lot of effort has gone in that direction. And Alhamdulillah, with IOP and IFSP and IFM, those things have been achieved to a great extent. But then there are limits to standardization because, as a student of Sharia, jurisprudence, and fiqh myself, the diversity of opinions among the scholars is very central, it's the very ingredient of Islamic Sharia. So it's to go to a point with absolute standardization, it would be difficult, right? What we are calling today, we are from the perspective of those people who are running the show, who are offering the products, from the people who are representing the bank's profitability side as well. There's a continuous demand on the scholars that they should see their perspective and be equipped with those. They should understand the finance part of Islamic finance better. They should be able to come up with those products which would help in completing the Islamic finance market. So there are a lot of efforts that are being made. I can see, again, I can see at the level of Darul and Jamaat Rashid, these two institutions have been working really hard to bring their graduates to a level. For example, I just did half of my Darul from Darul last year, and there was a compulsory, not a compulsory course, but a highly recommended course for the scholars who are graduating, a 15-day course in Islamic finance. Similar efforts are being taken place in other institutions like Jamaat Rashid. So they're merging, and they're forcing their graduates to look at the economic side, the finance side of the solution, and thus making them more, perceptive and coming up with more innovation and creative thinking, original thinking in in terms of project development. So these are some of the efforts that are being taken place, and I think we have moved way ahead from what it used to be a decade ago in terms of the Sharia scholar understanding the perspective of the people who represent the operation side of the bank and vice versa. One last request I'll make to the people who are representing the operation side of Islamic banks or fund management, that they need to be conversant in some of those Sharia principles as well. Since we are bringing these scholars towards our side, making them more cognizant of the reality of the markets, the bankers, the professionals, they also need to understand the constraint that these Sharia advisors face. What are some of the limiting factors? What are some of the things that cannot be changed in Islamic Sharia? So those are the extreme limits that cannot be violated. So this is something when this healthy combination of these people would exist, Sharia standardization would take a much healthier course. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Meezan, especially having moved in the last minute to fill in somebody else's shoes, so thank you very much. Last but not least, I would invite Ashar Nazim, who is a partner of the Global Center of Excellence for Islamic Banking for Ernst & Young, to talk about China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and the opportunities it presents to Islamic finance. Ashar.
Thank you so much, Ansar. Assalamu alaikum. Abid Saab started this session by mentioning the context of Islamic finance in the overall global financial industry, right? And we are talking about $300 trillion in assets overall, and we are talking about $3 trillion of assets within the Islamic banking industry. And therefore, the challenge remains how to mainstream. Right? And for Pakistan, CPEC is that opportunity. For Islamic banks, CPEC is that opportunity. Right? It's actually the positive business brand that Pakistan has been looking for, that we needed. And for Islamic banking industry, and for the Islamic finance industry, in fact, it is the opportunity to provide a very powerful asset proposition to the asset-hungry global Islamic finance industry. Right? Taking a step back, this One Belt, One Road initiative from China is a game changer for them. It is the way they will do business with the rest of the world for the next 2-3 years. right? The Central Bank of Bahrain recently sent about 20 of their highly talented youngsters to different parts of the world, and they sent them to Hong Kong and China as well. And they came back again, all talking about one belt and one road, and Pakistan featured prominently, right, in those discussions from Chinese economists. So what is the 46 billion? Yes, we heard about it, etc. Right? But what exactly is the implication? Implication is the trade route from China to Persian Gulf is going to come down to by 80%. Right? So from 13,000 kilometers, it is going to come down. The distance is going to come down to 2,500 kilometers. The shipping time from China to Persian Gulf access is going to come down from 45 days to 10 days. Now that is real disruption. Right? That is real disruption. So what is in it for Islamic banks, and how should we go around doing it? You know, of course, one opportunity is ad hoc basis. You know, financing comes and we can participate, etc. But I think that is really underselling ourselves. The overall proposition is it is expected that the local financing part of the overall CPEC corridor will be about 10 billion in financing dollars and about a couple of $billion in equity financing that will be required from domestic financial institutions. To me, to EY, that is really a drop in the ocean. Let's understand the challenge and the opportunity. The challenge here is, the opportunity is huge, but are the Islamic financial institutions, do they have the scale to tap into this? Right? So number one, scale, both banks and asset management companies. Number two, do we have the institutional framework? And Dr. Zishan alluded to the importance of institutional support. Do we have the institutional support, the institutional framework to actually take advantage of that? Those are the two key challenges. The opportunity, the broader opportunity, is you must have heard about JP Morgan, including Pakistan recently, the Pakistan Sovereign Sukuk in its emerging market index. Right? And what that means is a lot more investors will be looking at Pakistan when they're talking about their emerging market portfolio. We also know about MCSI, including Pakistan, it is the emerging market index. And Islamic banks and Islamic financial institutions have to start thinking in these mainstream terms, right? So in terms of way forward, and because the theme of this conference is also the roadmap, there are about 5 serious initiatives that the Islamic finance industry should consider if we want to take serious advantage of this opportunity, CPEC opportunity. Number one, collaboration between the industry to set up an industry infrastructure fund. Right? By itself, we will never be able to lead larger transactions. So an industry fund through collaborative effort to build scale. And also when you have that scale, you will be able to talk to international investors as well. Right? And I can assure you, Gulf investors are looking at Pakistan, they are looking at who to talk to. So Al-Maqab of Qatar, you already know, is involved in one of the power transactions, and power sector transactions. But a lot more can be done if you've got the size, the right size that is talking to international investors. So that's one. Second, think about the trade finance opportunity. And now is the time for Pakistan to consider setting up an Islamic Exim Bank, Export-Import Bank. Dubai is already talking about it, it seems, right? This new trade finance route is being rewritten, and that will set the tone for next century, right? In terms of how China will trade with the world. And having a Sharia-compliant Exim Bank that facilitates trade, is going to be an absolute critical point. And for our Sharia scholars and our product specialists, it's not just enough to leave it out when the Exim Bank comes to install, right? Blockchain technology is going to completely rewrite how trade finance business is going to be done in the future. So together with the Sharia knowledge and the product knowledge, we need to understand how these new fintech technologies are going to impact the way business is going to be conducted. Right? Number 3 is CPEC Sukuks, and Hassan alluded to that as well. Right? And yesterday we heard a lot of encouraging announcements, but really, let's put it in the global context. The global demand for Sukuk instruments is about $1 trillion, according to EY. Yeah. The supply is about 300 billion, 1/3, right? Where is Pakistan's share of this $1 trillion Sukuk market? A tremendous opportunity exists if we take the Islamic first approach that Malaysia has taken as well, right? When it comes to financing a lot of CPEC related transactions. A fourth one is a CPEC crowdfunding platform. And yesterday we mentioned the Lending Club and Beehive, which are crowdfunding platforms which are able to pass on attractive returns from SME businesses to the retail investors. So you can invest 100 dirhams, starting from 100 dirhams, and the returns you're getting is between 8 to 12%. I think the Islamic finance industry need to think about how do we pass on the impact, the economic benefit of CPEC to blue collar and white collar individuals in the market, right? So a crowdfunding platform that is able to link CPEC financing to retail investors. And finally, what I call talent C, right, for the generation C. Pakistan has long been the talent hub for the global Islamic finance industry. Let's take credit for it and let's be proud of it, right? Be it in Turkey, Indonesia, Malaysia, Bahrain, UAE, Saudi, you find Pakistanis, right, serving this industry that will help them grow this industry. Going forward, though, we've got a challenge, right? There was the first generation of Islamic bankers and professionals, and they came out of passion. They said, well, let's set it up and somehow we'll get it. The second generations were the likes of us, who read a little bit of what Muraba and Mudaraba is, and then did a little bit of product development, and then brought in Sharia scholars, etc., and that worked out quite well. The next generation of the talent supply line that's coming up is no longer enough for you to just know about Sharia or product only. You've got to understand new social sciences that are coming up, right? And what that means is digitization, analytics, and cyber. The big data is going to be big, right? So EY, for example, today I'm here on behalf of EY. My mandate is to recruit 100 data scientists, right? People who understand the banking industry, but who also understand the analytics part of it. And therefore, our next gen, or Gen Z, have to see how do you map the knowledge of Islamic finance with the new sciences which are coming up. So these are 5 institutional initiatives, we would say, that where Islamic finance would really, or the industry would really benefit from the CPEC.
Thank you very much, Ajay. As promised, I will give you an opportunity to ask any of the people sitting here on the panel. You've got Sharia Guru, you've got Standardization Guru, you've got Advisory Guru, Capital Markets Guru, and the Retail Banking Guru. So it's an opportunity for you to ask any questions you may have. We did allocate some time, and Imran, we have time, right? Thank you. Please.
We have a mic.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm from China, brother Islam. I'm quite interested in your speech about the China, Pakistan corridor, economic corridor. So,
Just like the way in Turkey. So the good and EY, when we produced our thought leadership report, last 2 years we took a conscious effort to do a complete translation in Chinese as well. So this in Mandarin language thought leadership in Islamic finance is now being available in mainland China, right? So to keep it brief, it is a start. A number of Gulf banks are setting up their operations in China. Trying to build that trade link through Islamic finance proposition. So that understanding is beginning to be built. We find Chinese banks open. It is still early stages, but definitely the door has been open, and we see something coming soon.
I think from standard setting point of view, there are 2 things. One is we are doing standard risk participation. So I'm sure that can be used for trade finance and corporate finance. It's being developed at the moment. And secondly, from Hong Kong, the regulatory, they have issued 2 schools. So Hong Kong, as a regulator and the institutions there are quite familiar with Islamic finance because they came to the market twice with the sovereign institute from Hong Kong. Those are about $1 billion each book. So there is, I think, now sort of some awareness and some activities taking place, at least in Hong Kong.
And I think you should give him your business card and invite him to try. And Khalis, yes, one question. Microphone, please. Where's my question?
My question is to Dr. Zishan. He talked about standardization, and in the morning he told his own story about what he has seen in IB and LUMS and now in KSBL. In 15 years ago, as you said, nobody was accepting Islamic finance, be it IBA, be it LUMS, and transition has taken place. But if you would see in the universities and colleges nowadays, the mushroom growth in courses offered by these institutions. And we have different school of Prakas, Deoband and others as well. How do you see, is there any need to have a standardization or would you see any future